Madridistas, welcome back to the channel, my beloved Madridista family. Okay, we are 3 days away from, the biggest match of the year, the biggest club match in the world. The tension is building. You can feel it everywhere. That's all anyone is talking about around here. So we're going to discuss the final today. I'm going to do two previews. Today I want to talk about just the sporting aspect, the football side of things. But I will do another video talking about just some of the interesting subplots, some of the kind of more thematic things, Toni Kroos and the Ballon d'Or issue, and a few other kind of interesting subplots that I think, add a bit of flavor to the final. But you guys, look, we've seen, there are upsets in the air these days, okay? And I know most of you guys, probably watched the FA Cup final, a very unexpected result there. The Europa League final, I don't think too many of us saw this scoreline coming. And I think that the universe is sending us a bit of a warning. I mean, we need to take this incredibly seriously. This is going to be a very difficult final, a very difficult rival. There's a very fine line between confidence and overconfidence. And I think we have to be very careful not to overstep it. It's going to be a tough final. But okay, let's talk about, Borussia, kind of, how we got here, what type of team this is, and what I think some of the keys to the match will be. So thanks for joining me. As always, let's get started. All right, Madridistas, welcome back. Okay, let's talk about the final, sort of just from a football standpoint. Let's start just very quickly. I'm sure we all agree there's no controversy here. The Real Madrid lineup, this is what I'm expecting, what we're all expecting. Nothing surprising here. I mean, we are definitely going to miss Tchouaméni. Real Madrid has not lost a match all year when Tchouaméni has started. He will be missed, but Camavinga will be playing in that position, a player that gives me huge confidence. This is a lineup, no surprise. Carvajal, in the back on the right, Courtois in goal, Mendy on the left. I think we'll see Nacho and Rudiger as center backs. The midfield, the only thing we don't know is the exact formation, but it's obviously going to be Kroos, Camavinga, Fede, and Jude. Now, it might be a sort of 4-4-2 where you push Jude off to the left, you push Fede off to the right, and you have a sort of double pivot with Kroos and Camavinga. Or it might be a diamond formation where you've got Jude sort of resting just behind Vini and Rodrigo. But I think the lineup, there's going to be no surprises there. In terms of the journey, I mean, we all know this, but just, very, very quick recap. The journey to this final was just full of all sorts of things. I mean, in the group stage, we had an absolutely perfect record, won every single match. And we thought, that would maybe be a prelude to come. But no, things got, very bumpy. Against Leipzig, we struggled. The away match was sort of salvaged by an incredible goal by Brahim, as you guys remember. But the return leg, which, I suffered here in the Bernabeu, was sort of a 1-1 draw, a very, very agonizing, painful 1-1 draw. The quarterfinal against City, the match here, I think we were slightly better. I mean, it was 3-3. The sort of City goals were fabulous. I mean, not the kind of goals you see every day. I mean, the Silva goal was a bit odd. And then Guardiol, I think if he tried that volley 100 times in practice, maybe one would go in. So, City played a lot of sort of windshield wiper football, left to right, right to left. But in terms of real chances, I think we were slightly better at home. In the away leg, as you all know, the legendary penalty shootout, 1-1. I thought we were good in the first 30 minutes, and we were good in the extra time. But for about 60 minutes there, the entirety of the second half and about the last 15 minutes of the first, we had our backs against the wall, but we defended incredibly bravely, and we showed a lot of nerve in the penalty shootout. And then against Bayern, more recent history. I think that the match in Munich was, the 2-2, which I think was kind of like a heavyweight bout. It was sort of two fantastic, massive clubs just exchanging blows. And I think the 2-2 was probably a fair result. And then in the return leg in Madrid, I thought we were better. So forget all the narratives out there. We were better. That scoreline, it was 2-1 with Joselu, with the miraculous sort of 2 goals. But we deserved to score well before that, and I think we were the better side. So that's how we landed here. Now let's talk about Borussia. The Borussia lineup, I think, is going to look like this. There's very little doubt. I mean, unless there are last-minute injuries. The only sort of question that I've heard people discuss is whether it'll be Royce or Brandt. But I do think it'll be Brandt who will play. He's had an incredibly good end of season. He's their number 1 assist sort of playmaker. I wouldn't be surprised to see Marco Reus come in at some point, later in the match. But I do think they'll start with Brandt, which probably makes sense. And then you'll have Sancho on the right, very talented, very technical, can create a lot of danger. And Adeyemi on the left, who is just a bullet. I mean, this is one of the fastest players in the world, and we need to be very, very careful with him. Borussia, as you guys know, they were I remember the draw when it first, came out for the group stage, and I thought, this is the group of death. And I don't think any of us expected Borussia to come out on top of that group, but they did. They only lost 1 match, which I think was the away match to PSG, but very consistent performance in the group stage. And then when they went to the knockout rounds, against PSV, I thought it was fairly comfortable. They won 2-0 at home. And then in the second leg, it was 1-1. They had their back against the wall for a few minutes, but I think overall it was pretty comfortable for Borussia. Then they went on to the quarterfinals against Atleti. Now, this was high drama. This was kind of a very intense back and forth 2 legs. They lost the first match in the Wanda Metropolitano. They lost that 2-1. I think Atleti was quite happy with that, but went back and played in Borussia and won 4-2 with 2 late goals. And this shows you that, and we'll talk about this now, Borussia is a team that, they can turn it on when they want. They're very direct, very aggressive, and when they want to turn it on, they really can. And then, of course, the semifinal against PSG, which, everyone's been talking about, 1-0 and 0-1. I mean, they won 1-0 at home. A good combination of sort of containing, defending, and attacking. And then in Paris, they really showed us their defensive prowess. I mean, I know that PSG hit the bar many times and all that, but they did a great job of containing Kylian. How often do you see a side that can contain Mbappe for 180 minutes? Whether you like it or not, they did a great job of doubling up on him. They defend very well. They defend very well as a team, and I think it's one of their strengths. So anyway, they're in the final, perhaps unexpectedly, but certainly deservedly, because I think defending is also a part of the game. Okay, this is not just about attacking. Defending is also very important. And if you do that well, that is half the game that you're doing well. So we need to give them credit for that. Now, let's talk about some of Borussia's general attributes and the things that we need to really be aware of. Okay, first, obviously the speed on the counter. Okay, Adeyemi is one of the fastest players in the world, and I don't know if you've seen him play a lot, but players that are this quick, they play this game of sort of, I'm going to kick the ball up there and let's see who gets there first. It's something that Mbappe used to do in his early years. I'm going to kick the ball forward and let's see who gets there first. And Adeyemi always gets there first. So we need to be very careful with his speed. We're going to make sure that we double up, not laterally, but one behind the other, because he will get past some of our midfielders. We need to be very careful with his speed. Secondly, another thing we need to be aware of with Borussia, their scoring is very diversified. Okay, this is a team, and you look at the goal contributions, it isn't that they just have one player that sort of scores all the goals. It's nothing like that. This isn't a sort of man-to-man type situation where you try to neutralize 1 or 2 players. This is a very well-diversified group. They play as a team, they defend as a team, and they score as a team. And I think it makes it particularly difficult and dangerous to defend because you don't know where the goal can come from, and they all kind of play in pretty good synchronicity. So I think it'll make it particularly difficult to defend when you don't know exactly where the threat is going to come from. Another thing that they've shown us is that, with Borussia, when it rains, it pours. So we know that they can defend very well. They've shown us that, but they also, when they do decide to go forward, they can score a lot of goals. I mean, they've scored 3 or more goals in 15 matches this year. So, it is a club that when they do decide to turn it on, they can be quite dangerous. And when it rains, it does seem to pour with them. And we need to be very, very careful to contain that. Again, the next thing I would mention is just their ability to defend. And I think the PSG semifinal showed us that this is a team that knows how to suffer. And in previous videos, I've talked about the concept of suffering, which is an expression we use in Spain, that in some matches you have to know how to suffer. These guys know how to do that. So they know how to defend very, very well. Another thing I would mention, they're very good at set, like all German teams, and I said the same thing against Bayern, they're very good at set pieces, okay? They're very good in the air, they're very big, they're very physical, and we need to try to avoid those balls into the box aerially because they are good at this. And, another thing I would mention as an attribute, this team has nothing to lose, okay? They are in the final, they were not expected to be here, and they're going to, they have nothing to lose. They're not going to feel a lot of pressure. So I think they're going to play quite freely. And, we need to be aware of that they might be a lot looser than we expect. In terms of the keys, having said all this, the keys to the match, in my view, number one, don't let them score first. If they score first, this is going to be an uphill battle, okay? Because I've mentioned in previous videos that Real Madrid is a team that doesn't like it when we're playing, even against modest opposition. If they park the bus and just defend and we don't have space, we really struggle with that. And it's going to be all the more difficult against a team with the size and physicality of Borussia Dortmund. If they score first, this is going to be a very long night. So that would be number one. Number two, don't lose balls in the middle of the pitch, especially in the first 30 minutes. We need to be very, very careful with the counter. Don't lose balls in dangerous areas because Adeyemi has a speed that can really, really hurt us. So I think we need to be very careful with the ball. Don't take too much risk, especially at the beginning of the match, because you do not want these guys scoring first. Number three, we need to avoid crosses into the box. So Carvajal and Mendy are going to have to be very, very disciplined because we want to, it's not just defending the center backs once the ball gets in the box. We need to avoid the balls getting into the box. And I think the pivots are going to have to help. Sometimes the center backs splitting out to the wing, but we have to try to avoid balls getting crossed into the box because, as I just mentioned, they're very, very dangerous. If you look at the last two goals against Atlético de Madrid, when Borussia swarms forward, they have a kind of high-energy, chaotic thing about them where they just attack. They're crossing balls. They're very aggressive, very quick, and chaotic. And those balls that come into the box are very, very dangerous. And look at that last goal that they scored against Atlético, and you'll know what I mean. Number four, don't give Sancho or Brandt too much time around the box. Okay, now these are players that if you give them a little bit too much time, they're very good passers. Sancho's very technical, and he can dribble. He's got a very, he didn't show it so much in Manchester, but in Borussia, he's playing very well, and he's very technically skillful. Don't give them too much time on the ball around the box. You need to press that ball aggressively, and don't give Brandt time. He's a very good passer. He's leading them in assists. You cannot give these guys time or visibility because they will hurt you. And then number five, what I just mentioned, set pieces. Be very careful on set pieces. This is a team that can hurt you by virtue of their size and aggressiveness and physicality. So, listen, these are from a kind of sporting standpoint the things that I would be really, really aware of going into the final. But the tension is building. It's going to be a really exciting match. I'll do another video talking about some of the really interesting subplots, and I think there are quite a few of them that give this final, a bit of extra juice. But anyway, those are my thoughts in terms of the football side of things. As always, I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks, always for the comments and subscribing and all that stuff. But thank you for joining me, you guys. I'll see you in the next video, and as always, a la Madrid.